I am just sitting out the fact. I might be like, super excited to see what this looks like. I'm just sharing the news. We were kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, just coming up with ideas.
How you're positioning the content that's making it resonate with the audience.
What's up, fam? Back with another Real Estate Video Blueprint podcast. Excited for Tim to be wearing the tackiest jacket in real estate history to welcome our guest from Boston, Massachusetts, my boy, Sam RP, Reifman-Packett. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
I'm excited to dig in.
Yeah.
I get excited when people are from Boston because most of the time we interview people from like Phoenix, and there's just a lot of Boston heritage, like the Dun Kings and Mark Wahlberg and accents, and there's just more stuff than there is in these boring cities like Scottsdale.
Our last home that we owned, we moved from there 2 years ago, but our previous home was a block away from where the Wahlbergs grew up.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't know him. I didn't, but pretty cool.
Listen, don't leave that part out.
I grew up with Mark Wahlberg. We're the same age. We're both 35.
Make that your claim to fame and not actually a thing. So I like it. I like it. So Sam, for those that may not know you, how'd you get into real estate and how'd you get into content?
Yeah, so I've been in real estate for this is my 14th year. I've been doing this since I graduated college. I moved to Boston to go to Berklee College of Music. I was a musician. And when I graduated, for a couple of months, I was scooping ice cream at Ben & Jerry's, living the dream, as one does. And I had a band. We were putting out an album. We were touring. And my dad said, "You need to get a job. I'm not paying for your rent anymore." And so I had a couple friends who were doing real estate, and they kind of pitched it as you make your own schedule. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I got into real estate, and I didn't take it serious for 3 years. And then around year 3 or 4 I was like, okay, real estate thing is happening. I'm actually making money. The music thing is not happening, not at all. I was losing money going down to New York City to play to like 20 people at like 1 a.m. and then driving back. So I kind of put it a little bit, and now I've been into real estate. And then for the content stuff, about right around when COVID hit, I need a little bit of shake up. That's when everyone started to do a lot of video content. I had been kind of watching on the sidelines, and because I had always been an entertainer from, the music days, I figured this was something that I could be good at, and I wanted to kind of try it out. And I do all my own content. Everything that I put out, I'm making all by myself. For a while, it was just a means for doing something different that was bringing a little bit of joy back into real estate because I was feeling a little stagnant and bored. Now it's actually proving to be successful with building up my business and bringing in leads every week, which is huge.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Like the enjoyment of it's great, but then when it's actually something that can generate business, that's the key. And so I know there's kind of 2 key things that have done well for you as far as performance and engagement and things like that. And so the one is the property tours, but then the other is like talking about like the local stuff. And I know you've had some reels that have got, just looking through some of your reels with the comment sections have gone crazy on some of them. Tell me a little bit about like the local stuff and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so I was working with Will Draper. He was my coach with Tom Ferry for about 2 years, and when him and I started working together, we were kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, just coming up with ideas. And we were like, when I started working with him, I said, "Listen, I've been doing this for a while. I don't want to talk real estate. I just want to talk content. I need help with the content side. I don't need anyone to tell me to make my calls. I got that. I've been doing this long enough to understand that." So we would just every week we would sit for 30 minutes and I would script out some ideas, and then he'd be like, "Why don't you do this?" And so we were doing 2 to 3 videos a week for a year, and nothing was really clicking, but they were like really good videos. I thought they were well made. I thought they were funny. We really had the hooks down. He was really pushing me to try YouTube. So I had made a YouTube video about 5 new developments that were in the works that were coming to Boston. And he said, "Why don't you try to also cut that up and make a shorter version for Instagram?" I said, "Sure, that'll save me some time. I don't have to do 2 separate videos. I'll just do one of the same, but a shorter version." And I put it, at the time I was still doing TikTok as well. I'm not doing TikTok anymore. but I posted it to TikTok and to Instagram, and I hadn't even posted it to YouTube yet, and it blew the fuck up. Like, it just took off out of nowhere. At the time, I had 17, maybe 1,800 followers on Instagram, and my alerts were coming through. I was cracking up just sitting on my couch. I was like I felt like I watered something. My phone would not stop blowing up with notifications, and I was just laying in bed, like trying to go to bed, and me and my wife were just looking at notifications coming through, and I was getting comment after comment after comment, and follow after follow after follow, and I was like, damn, this really struck a chord somehow. That one got about 500,000. It's, I think, probably at 650,000 views now, but that also got me up to about 5,000 followers in 2 or 3 weeks out of nowhere. And so I took some time to kind of work with Will and try to figure out, why did that video resonate when the 50 or 60, 70 videos I put out beforehand didn't resonate. And the one thing we kind of took from it was I was speaking much larger but still defined audience. So the hook of the video was, Boston is changing. Here are 5 developments in the works right now that will forever change the Boston skyline. And then it just went right in. Number 1, and it was a list basically with renderings of these developments. We realized before I was making content about buying a home or selling a home, it was speaking to a pretty niche specific audience. When I put that video, I spoke to the entire city of Boston and anyone who lived in Boston, that no longer lived in Boston, or who lived in the surrounding areas of Boston. And then I was also talking about something that was changing within the city. So that was creating a lot of conversations, like heated arguments happening in my comment section, which kept pushing it further and further out. And so I realized, okay, maybe what I should do is talk about Boston developments for a little while. So then we started that was developments. Then I did one video for each development. Each one of those took off. And then I had to come up with 5 more developments. Each one, basically every video I put out kept having really good traction. And then I ran out of developments to talk about. And so that's when I started to do the property tours. That's kind of how I fell into that by accident.
One thing you mentioned was that you had videos, they were good quality and all the other fun stuff. And what I look at your videos now that are crushing it, by the way, like the firehouse, listing there was really cool. That one did well, 200,000 views. I think it's out right now. I mean, it looks like you're shooting those on your phone, right? And so, yeah, it's phone and a gimbal.
Not even a gimbal. Not even a gimbal.
It is even better.
Even a gimbal.
Even better.
It is literally me just going like this, walking through, trying to be as steady as I can.
So many, of the agents that we talk to, like, that is the first thing they go to, right? Like, what kind of camera do I buy and all this other fun stuff. And you are proving the point that I usually try to make. It's like, guys, it's not about the camera. It's not about the thing. It's about the content itself more so than anything. Yeah. So tell me about the houses that you're picking for these tours, how you're shooting them, and more importantly, like how you're positioning the content that's making it resonate with the audience.
I don't know how much of this is luck, and I don't know how much of this is actual legit strategy. So I'll tell you my strategy, but I still think there's a bit of luck involved. It's always both. Like, you find out the more stuff you do, the luckier you get, right? Like, the more you start to figure out these little things. I will say, in talking to other content creators, I go against the grain of everyone teaches you should do when it comes to creating content, right? So I'm not doing any trending audio. I'm not really doing captions. Everything that I make is outside of the app. So it's all like, I make everything in Final Cut Pro. So when I upload the video to Instagram, the song that I put behind it, I already downloaded the song and kind of tie into the video. So Instagram doesn't think it's a trending audio. It's just a song. It's part of the video. And then with captions, I have like a title card in the very beginning, which I do think Will and I talked about this for a while. We think that actually does help a little bit with the title card. It really kind of describes what they're about to see in the beginning. And then I'll do kind of basics of the address, the price, maybe bedroom count, and that's pretty much it. And then from there, they have to listen to my voice. But what happened was, Will was like really pushing me he was like, dude, you got to show properties. In the end, people want to just see properties. And if you show them enough properties and you speak about them, they will turn to you when it comes to buying or selling a home. You'll become the person who everyone knows as Boston and real estate all in one. And so in the fall, we had a very, very tough, slow market here in Boston. So I had a lot of colleagues of mine who had properties that were sitting, because the majority of the videos I'm putting out there of properties, they're not my listings. Probably 4 of them have been my listings, but a lot of them have been other people's listings. So in the beginning, I had reached out to a colleague of mine. They were like, hey guys, we're trying to come up with ideas of how to push this thing. I said, well, do you want me to do a video tour? And they're like, yes, please. So I went through with my iPhone, filmed it, and then I came home and I was having a really hard time doing a voiceover. For like 2 hours, I was trying to just like go on the fly doing a voiceover. And I decided to pause for a second. And I was like, why don't I try the way I was putting out content before, with scripting, with a hook, and then trying to make it as punchy as possible. And so I just watched the video on a loop, and I would just write out what I was looking at. And then if I had nothing interesting that I was looking at, would fill in some of the, either the personality of me or some of the, oh, and by the way, this home comes with 1 off-street parking spot. You have central air through hardwood floors, right? Like you would add in some kind of filler banter in there. And so then when I was done, I had a really strong video where the voiceover really never boring. If you watch all my videos, I really make an effort to still start with the hook and then keep it moving so you never have a chance to get bored or turn away. But I have to do all of that with my voice. So that's why I script it. And then when I record the voiceover, I'm not even looking at the video. I'll go downstairs, I'll plug the mic in, and then I'll just record it.
That's such a good key, because I feel like so many people try to watch the video and say the things, and then like you're seeing the living room go by, or you just pass the kitchen, you're like, oh shit, now I can't talk about the cabinets or the counters or, you know, the huge island or whatever it is. And like that screws people up, because I know I've done that. And so just watching the video and being like, okay, this is the point. Yeah, this is how long it should be. You know, I think is very beneficial. And I hope people are taking that away as something, because I know so many agents are doing these, and one, they get caught up in like making sure that what they're saying matches up with what is on screen. But 2, like, you know, tossing in the extra stuff, right? Oh, this has a parking spot. Oh, wait till you get outside. I can't wait to show you this patio, you know, type stuff is okay to say.
Yeah. It's all the script is honestly my secret sauce. Scripting it out is my secret sauce, because that gives you the opportunity to kind of be like, okay, like what are the main points that are going to grab people's attention about this property? Like, where do I say that very beginning? Where can I say that? What am I highlighting here? And how do I want to speak about this house? Because the other thing is, like, I'll watch a lot of property people put out and they're like, hi, everybody. Like, today we're going to go check out. And it's really kind of low energy. So I'm very punchy. I want to be as punchy as I can be, like almost like a radio host, because that seems to just, it grabs people. And I'm doing one of those a week. Now I'm trying to do maybe 1, 2 a week. And that's it for my video content.
The other thing I think that your content does well is the motion of the video. So a lot of times an agent will be in front of the house and it's like, today we're checking out 123 Main Street, and like it's just a static shot on them, where as soon as your video starts playing, the camera is moving through. And so I watched one of them, and it was like, you know, a townhouse or something, and you're moving and it's like, wait a second, is he going up the stairs? Wait, no, then you went like you know, it was like a first level thing.
The comments on that one were crazy.
Yeah, they keep going
for the lower level.
Yeah, but the motion of it, you know what I mean? Like as a viewer, I'm watching it. Wait, he's going under.
Where are we going?
Like
what are we doing?
Hallway, yeah. And then it's like into this. And so just having that motion of the house. Somebody sent me an Instagram reel for feedback. They're like, hey, what'd you think of this one? Which you know, you guys could do. And I don't know if you'll take my feedback, but I'll give you some. And it was all these beautiful shots of this kitchen and of the bathroom, and it was just beautiful shots panning back and forth. And you had no idea what it was like to walk through that house. And that is what your videos do, as opposed to a lot of listing videos do. And it's, you know, like similar to why I think the Tyler Hassman stuff works. It's similar to why this other stuff works. But people are, you know, a lot of agents try to sell the house on these videos, and you're really showing the house. Like you are just showing what it looks like to walk through it. You're giving people a feel of what it's like, and you're just showing it instead of selling it. And I think that's another nuance to your stuff of why it's working.
I agree that, like, I think that some people are bored of the overproduced listing videos, where it just, you feel like you can't quite figure out what the house is. And so this is giving a more organic approach to it. And like I said, I'm not selling the house. I mean, to be honest, I'm trying to be the person that everyone in Boston is looking towards when it comes to real estate, especially because a lot of these houses aren't mine. I'm just looking to get potential clients from this.
Well, and tell me too. So the listing tour stuff, I think you do really well. Scripting, ideas were good. I do love your approach to it because it's different than other people do. And everybody we have on our podcast does it differently. And so I think people can kind of take different stuff from that. But back on the development stuff, when you do these videos, are you highly opinionated on it, or are you just being informative and let people argue about their own stuff?
The latter. I am just spitting out the facts. I might be like, super excited to see what this looks like, right? Like, that's my opinion. I'm just sharing the news, and like these developments that I'm talking about, and the reason why I haven't been doing them anymore is because I talked about all the big ones. Once you start to talk about the small ones, they're just not interesting, right? Like, I'm talking about developments that are straight up new neighborhoods, basically going into the outskirts of Boston. So you have thousands of new residential units and a tower going up in the middle, right? Like, these are things that are really interesting. And if you live here and you're unaware that this is happening, this is going to shock you to see. So then I let people kind of duke it out in the comments if they want. And sometimes I'll chime. I've kind of learned to not chime in, because sometimes I'll get very opinionated and I'll be like, whoa, now this is going a little bit further than I want. I'm going to step back. I mean, I get a lot of hate in the comments. I tell people when I'm doing the property tours, I tell them to tell the owners to not look at the comments. I say, listen, people are probably going to rip this home apart. If they don't, that's amazing. But the right now, it seems to be a pretty common theme that people are going to talk about your house. Yeah. So, but that's going to be a small percent. I did the math one time because I had a colleague of mine who we filmed her listing. It got 300,000 views, but it got like 1,000 really intense negative comments. And I said, you need to understand that this 0.001% of the viewers are commenting. Like, I know she wanted me to take it down for a minute because she felt like weird about it. I said, this is reaching people. Just let it, play its course, because we're just trying to reach as many people as possible. And now I have something unique when I go and meet with a seller that nobody else in my market has, which is I can almost guarantee at this point that when I do a listing tour, the video is going to get at a bare minimum 25,000 views. On average, I'm getting about 50,000 to 200,000 views typically. And it's like consistent. There's not one that's less than like 20,000 or 25,000 views, which is crazy.
That's awesome, right? And like we talk about social and things like that. And like, so the thing that like I think we all are aware of now is that like things are moving away from views being the thing, and like the shares and the saves and the DMs from it. And so I know that you said now you're seeing, hey, I'm doing this thing consistently and I'm seeing consistent lead flow. I saw what I think is probably a many chat in your bio, whereas like, DM me, this keyword to get started kind of thing. What are you doing to garner business from your content now?
Yeah, so my strategy has been, and sometimes I fall off the strategy, but my strategy has been one reel a week and one intentional story post a week. I'm constantly in my stories, just, living, but I'm trying to do one intentional story post a week. And the goal is, with my reels, it's growth and reach, right? I want to just try to, I'm averaging usually somewhere between 500 to 1,000 new followers a month. For the most part, they're all local to Boston. So I want to get in front of all the new people as often as I can and try to grab any of the new people that might be buyers or sellers. I'll put out a video. It'll reach a bunch of people. Like the last video I did a couple of weeks ago that was really successful. It was shared, I think, like 5,000 times, saved like 3,000 times, which is crazy to me. That's absolutely bonkers numbers. Like, that is way more important to me than so it was reaching a lot of people and I was getting a lot of followers. And so then what I would do is I would set everyone up basically to hopefully see my intentional story post. And these are what I call my hand raisers. And that is typically a poll. And it's just a basic question where I want to see if people are going to raise their hand. And like a simple version of this would be, at the end of last year, I said, we're 7 days away from 2024. Who has the goal of buying their first home in 2024? It was like a yes, no, right? And then everyone who voted yes, all I did was DM them. Hey, I saw that you were trying to buy your first home in 2024, or you're looking to make a move in 2024, whatever it might be. I would love to learn a little bit more about that. And all of a sudden, I'm having 20 to 30 conversations in the DMs with people. And then from there, my goal is as soon as I can, if they start responding, my goal is then to get them on a phone call and get them out of the DMs, because things get really messy in the DMs and it's just not a good system for lead follow-up. So my goal from there is to get them on the phone and then put them into my CRM.
I love that, because we always talk about, like, not just the size of your audience, but the quality of your audience, because sometimes people grow these big followings and they just aren't an audience that's ever going to convert into real estate. And what a great way to really get an idea of the quality of your audience than by posting a poll question like that in your stories or something. So I really love that. I think some of us are selling to our audience too much before we've built a great audience, but we have a lot of great content creators that have built this big audience and aren't converting it well enough because they're not doing those kinds of posts. So that is a great way to get hand raisers, because I think we want like somebody to fill out a lead form. We want somebody to register on our website, and that's a lot of friction to get to that point. And what I love about your story strategy is it's very easy for someone to interact with a poll than it is to get them to sign up on your website. And you're still getting that hand raised to be able to get in there and get in a conversation.
I used to have the question box was one that I would do too, but even that was a little too much work for people, right? Like fill in your email address and I'll send you the details of this listing was too much of a barrier for people. So instead of that, I would snap a picture at the new listing and say, touring of this, this brand new penthouse coming to market next week. Who wants a secret detail, right? Like, yes, I want the secret details, or not me, but I have a friend that wants the secret details, or no, I'm not looking to move right now, right? And then just vote. And then I will reach out to you and I will start the conversation. And I will probably follow up one or two times after that if you haven't responded to me.
Love that.
And I will say also that my strategy for building the audience is I am specific on the properties. I'm only filming, unless it's my own listing, which then I have to kind of obviously break these rules because I have to promote my own listings. Outside of my own listings, I will only film a listing if it's usually over $900,000. So usually they're $900,000 up to about $3 million, and they have to be within Boston. So I've had people reach out and say, hey, I have this listing that's been sitting. It's a $5 million, beautiful mansion. It's like 30 minutes south of the city. It would be great, but it's not going to hit my audience. So I pass on those because I really want to make sure that people know I'm in the city of Boston. Here's a price range that I work. I've had leads reach out to me and I start talking to them and they go, I really like the listings that you've been putting out. All of them really resonate with me. And they don't know, none of those are my listings, but sure, let's keep on chatting.
Well, and I think that's being super clear on who your target audience is and where that's at, right? And so it's like, as you start selling all of these homes to these people, then it's like probably as time goes on, your target audience and videos might increase in price point as these people sell these houses and move into more expensive ones. I want to go back to something that Tim said, a good point that Tim said. They don't happen often, so I wanted to make sure that we brought attention to it. And that was the story post of like, hey, are you trying to buy a home next year? Are you trying to buy a home this quarter or whatever it is? Don't start doing those every day. As Sam said, like he did that 6 months ago, right? As a thing to see for hand raisers. But I think the ones where it's like, hey, here's this property, or this one's coming soon, or this one's going to hit the market this week. Like if you want the details, hit yes or no. Those are okay to do a little bit more frequently. But like if every single day you have a poll where it's like, do you want to buy a house? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to buy a house? People are just going to slowly fall off.
Well, Sam, give me some examples of some of your favorite hand raiser kind of posts.
The easy one, obviously, if you're looking for buyers, would be the either the we're signing up a bunch of we have for like a new client a bunch of, it's like a bullshit saying, but we have room for 1 or 2 more buyers to work with over the next month. Are you looking to make it right? You can raise your hand, yes or no. Going and touring an off market or a coming soon property and just snapping a picture or a quick little video you're there. Do you want the secret details? Do you want more information? Raise your hand. The one that I've done a few times is talking about, hey, I just did an equity report for a past client. They've gained $125,000 in just 3 years. Do you want your own custom equity report? And it's like, yes, please, or no, I don't own a home, but I'm looking to buy a home, or what's a home equity report, right? I always want every option to be something where I can respond to someone. And so that one will usually get me potential seller leads. But like Curator, all of their like emails that they put out, you can kind of convert them into a poll. Like think about what the question is, because those are sort of hand raiser questions. in email form typically. So look at those, like, and even if you're not signed up curator, he puts out on his Instagram, he'll put out like screenshots of what the emails he's been sending out. And you can just look at them and be like, okay, how could I rephrase this to literally be a question that you could vote on? That could be a hand raiser.
Well, Jimmy also literally puts them up as story posts of like, hey, like, check this out. I think this could be a good campaign kind of thing. Or I would do this if I were an agent kind of stuff. So I screenshot those all the time. I probably have a whole folder of Jimmy Mackin screenshots. But what the key thing that I'm hearing in all of this is that, like, you're doing these posts, you're having people vote with answers that are unique enough that they can create a conversation. So it's not just a yes or a no, right? Because like a no, you're like, cool, you own a home.
Yeah, it's never a yes, no. I always try to put some sort of spin on it.
And then the most important thing is then DMing people and starting that conversation, right? And so it's like, you mentioned earlier that if someone requests details on a property, you'll send it and then probably follow up again, right? To ensure that you're being helpful and creating that conversation. And so that's just that's next step up, as opposed to just saying, oh, hey, Tim, here's the info, and then never speaking to him again. It's just like, did you have any questions? Was there anything I could answer? Kind of thing.
I will say that right now is my weak spot of the follow-up or just DMing people, because as I'm getting more and more people voting, I had a listing last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was offering up, do you want the coming soon information? And I had like 32 people that raised their hands saying they wanted more information. And usually what will happen is I'll post the poll and then I'll let it sit and marinate for most of the day, because I'll start to follow up with people once a lot of people have voted, and I can start to kind of go through the list. But all of a sudden I was like, I have 32 people that I need to DM, and that started to take some time. And then all of a sudden the next day I was like, I don't even have time to follow up with some of these people. That's where I'm trying to figure out a better system. I'm working with my coach on that right now, because it's now starting to get a little messy there.
I mean, obviously it doesn't create hand raisers, but like if you're using ManyChat automations or ManyChat to at least send the initial information, then you could have tags on those people that you're like, okay, here are these people that I can then DM.
But how do you do that with a poll?
But that's what I say. I don't think that you can do that with a poll. I'm actually pulling up ManyChat on another screen right now. But I think that would have to be a keyword one, right? So like DM me, whatever street name, which is also difficult because I feel like, most street names in Boston are like,
they're the best street names in the country. What are you talking about?
But no, but like it's gonna be like some like historic name that like no one can spell. But
unless you live in Boston.
Yeah, if you live in Boston, you're good.
That too. No outsiders. I love it.
So one thing I like, Sam, is I may or may not have been scrolling through your Instagram, but not the good stuff at the top, scrolling down to the bottom. And one of the things that I love is how much stuff you are doing. Like you were doing like a podcast thing. You were doing home tours differently. You were doing the talking head informational videos. You did green screen videos, and then you hit on the thing, And so again, I mean, you're just a great example too of someone who has hit on something that's really working and is crushing it. And we could spend all pod talking about that, but I do think it's good to acknowledge how much stuff you were trying before you figured out what was hitting.
Yes, I've had people. I give like this presentation on Instagram to agents in my office and in other offices, and I've done it a few times. And people are like, "Why are you comfortable giving away secrets?" And it's like, I tell everyone, listen, it took me a year of doing videos 2 to 3 times a week to get more than one lead, and I know for certain that the majority of you are going to try this out, and then you're going to quit, because after a month trying this out, you're going to give up and you're going to give it to someone else. So I don't mind giving away the secrets, because I know it takes such a long commitment for it to start to pay off. But if you're willing to commit to it and do it for a year or 2 years and really try hard at it, then it'll start to pay off. It's like anything with real estate. With cold calling, you're going to give up after 2 weeks if you don't see results. The people that are sticking with something for a while and seeing results, they've had to go through a very long, painful, slow period of time that nothing happened, but they just committed to doing it over and over again.
All right. I've got something, Katie. I would like to give him input on what I think he could do.
Well,
I want to drop a suggestion here. So, yeah. So here's just looking at Sam's stuff. He's tried a lot of things, And now these property tours are really good. And it sounds like you're kind of running out of big noteworthy developments to talk about.
I haven't done a development video since December. So I've only been doing property tours basically since January.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke,
don't. Yeah. So I think if like a big development did come up, would you still do those like as a bucket as things come up?
Yeah, maybe. I have realized that doing the exact same video every week works every single time. I'm tempted to not mess with that.
So I think that you always have to be lightly experimenting to try to figure out.
I'll lightly experiment
the next thing. And I just say that
was an awkward.
Well, no, it's a good conversation. Just because, like, I think of Ken Posek, right? Like, he's got his business, he's been doing his thing, and he's constantly just trying a little bit of stuff on the side here to see if there's something else that hits as well.
A little bit of experimentation.
Yeah, like always, but not letting it disrupt the main thing. I think that's the difference in the key point that you bring up is you can try new things, but don't let it disrupt the thing that's working. So the one other bucket I would think about is nostalgia. So the same way you do these informational things about the developments that are coming always hit. One of the reasons that they hit is because people they're just mad that the city's changing too much and it's not the way it used to be. And like all that fun stuff is always a thing. And hitting on some of those historic places, which you have a ton of historic stuff in Boston. And I think you can make some content and the type of historic stuff isn't the touristy, historic stuff. It's that local only, only the locals know what went down at this bar 30 years ago, whatever kind of stuff. I think that could crush it with your audience and grow at another level and hit audience tours. Okay. So that would, I'll send you some examples of some people that are doing some nostalgia content, but I think you would crush it with that.
All right. Challenge accepted.
Yes. All right, Katie, what was your question?
Sam posts the video. It gets 4 views and 0 shares. Screenshots. It's just like, fuck you, Tim.
Yeah, that's why we try. We'll try them out in the stories first and see how it resonates. That's the test trial right there.
Well, I like it.
And in Tim's defense, or putting a tally on the Tim column for all that. I mean, a lot of the comments in your comment section are clearly people that are from there that are talking about gentrification, that are clearly talking about bad flip jobs and that they know that part of town is this or that or whatever, so I think that doing stuff like that, whether it's an IG live or your story or something that's a little bit more fleeting, I think would get a lot of good engagement. So I do see what Tim's saying. What I was going to say was something similar as far as, changing from your usual bucket is Tyler Hassman does the short form property tours, right? And so he's played around with doing some different stuff with the 360 camera, and drone shots and different things to kind of switch things up. But he has such a good following in Alberta. Now he can go do videos in other parts of town or in other parts of the country or even in the States, and people still love them. I don't think that that's something I love how laser focused you are and okay, I'm doing the city of Boston, I'm doing these specific price points because this is my target buyer and these are my target audience. But I think as time goes on, you probably could throw in some other suburbs or cities or areas or sick waterfront property or different things like that people would be oh yeah, we used to go down there as a kid kind of thing.
Well, I think that piggybacks too on how are you picking what properties to go do? Because I'm sure you're not just doing every single one that pops up, right? You're picking specific ones. So how do you go through pick which properties you want to do?
A handful of them have been mine as of late, and then I have 10 or 15 friends of mine in my office who are constantly pitching me their next listing. Hey, you want to film this? Want to film this?
Wait. Just for the audience to understand, you are now at a point where instead of trying to go figure out what listings to shoot, you have to deal with people pitching you.
I have to turn them down. Yes.
Yeah. That's fun.
I have to turn them down because I have a backlog. And I'll go one step further. I had a colleague of mine say, hey, I have this listing. Do you want to come film it? So I said, sure, I'll come on out tomorrow. So I was there. The seller happened to be there. We were hanging out. And then I learned while we were hanging out there that it was not my colleague that asked me to come and film it. It was the seller that asked her agent to ask me because she realized that I was in her office. Pretty cool little tidbit there. We're one step away from the sellers just DMing me. Come on, people. Just come right to me.
Yeah.
That's the goal here. But no, I'm having my colleagues who all kind of focus in on specific areas, they will say, hey, listen, I got this listing. And if for some reason I don't have anything lined up for like the next week, then I'll start to kind of look around and see who I'm friends with. My goal is occasionally I will show a property that in retrospect is very boring. Like there's been a few that I've done and be like, that's fine. Like I highlighted it. They asked me, I had the content. So I checked that box, but like in retrospect, it wasn't an interesting property. So I am trying to pick ones now that are at least interesting to look at, because there's a lot of these, when it comes to condos in the city, there's a lot of just the same white box over and over again. So there's been a few that people have been like, do you want to film this? And I go, I don't think it's really going to work for my audience. So the more unique it is, the better. Like that firehouse, for example, that one it blew up. It blew up because it's so unique. It's so cool. Lofts are very cool. I have like a small little like cottage that I'm going to be listing, and I'm posting that video tomorrow. I think that one will do pretty well. So I think the ones that have a little bit more character and charm and are more of a one of a kind, they do a lot better.
And I love, just going back to that firehouse one, I think it's just such a good example of you picking a compelling property, and then just the way you shot it. It's like, again, no gimbal, no nothing, just you on your phone. But you're outside of that firehouse with one of the garage doors open, and the person just naturally, they're like, I want to see what's inside that garage door. And then you show them what's inside the garage door, and then you go up. Just the way that you pull the viewer through that tour, for me, is where the magic happens.
The funny thing about that one too is that, and this happens a bunch now, that the agent says, hey, will you come for our listing? So I come over, and the seller sometimes is there. And I know that the agent probably said something to their seller along the lines of, hey, I'm going to have my colleague come. He's going to film the listing. It's going to be awesome. It's going to get like 50,000 or 100,000 views. It's going to be huge. I know there's got to be some sort of gut reaction the seller is feeling or thinking when all of a sudden they realize I just pull out my iPhone and I just walk into the property. I feel like they've got to have some sort of like embarrassment for a quick second. They go, hold on, you're telling me that you couldn't do this?
Yeah. Well, they're expecting like this two camera setup and lights and crew to come in, and there's just Sam walking around with his phone, Yeah.
He like drops on the ground. You're like, oh shit, sorry. Like
Yeah. All right, my other idea for you that you can experiment with. A lot of our other agents that do similar stuff to you, some of their lower price point stuff really takes off and hits. And the fact is, like, if you do a lower price point, like it's like a $500,000 condo, and it's not that great, people are going nuts in the comments. The fact that costs $500,000. So I think it's funny because like Brad does all these crazy $6 million listings. That's all he does. Some of his most watched videos are actually the affordable ones. And so I think it may be an experiment. Yeah,
I did, because a couple of my listings are slightly lower priced, and lower priced Boston being like, in the 700 range. Those ones were very successful on the reach and the comments. My challenge with those is I then start to get a ton of leads, and a lot of those leads that might be slightly pushing their budget, and their budget is more 400,000 to 600,000. You can't really get much in the city of Boston for even $500,000. But personally, at the moment, like I'm working on trying to bring a new team member on, because I don't even have the bandwidth to handle all these clients, because I'm trying to really focus in on the clients that are in the 1 to 2 million range. So that's my if I bring on a team member to service those clients in the 400,000 to 600,000 range, then I'll be probably doing a little bit more of that content. I just right now I don't like, people be like, hey, I'm looking to buy a home. I'm pre-approved. My budget is $550,000. And I'm going, all right, well, I don't have the time.
You need to bring on a team agent, and you need to do it like
I know
tomorrow, because half the audience just listened to you say, man, I did that, but the problem is I got all these leads. And was, like, that's not a problem, man. That's a good thing. But no, I get it. I know. You're really trying to narrow in. But I do think, I do. I'll go back to Ken Pozek. We were just laughing because you were texting back and forth that he now is like the lead agent in Golden Oak, which is that ridiculous, millions of dollars community that's like inside of Disney World. And Ken's at the point now where he has all this business coming in, and he's got the team in place where he just gets to cherry pick you know what, I'm going to work with the buyers that want to buy in Golden Oak and hand the rest out to the team. But I do think that's a struggle a lot of our content creator agents have, because I think a lot of them are a different mindset. Like we have this artist mindset. We don't have as much of this team leader operational, mindset. Like we're the visionary people that are out making fun content. But I do think putting more of that structure in place early, you never do it too early. You never turn around and say, I brought on that team agent and hired that assistant too early, right? We're always looking back like, crap, I wish I had done that sooner. So on that note, like, what are you working on for the future? Like you're doing a bunch of amazing stuff that I love, man. Like your profile and the way you're building the audience and converting the business is fantastic. I think you gave our audience a ton of great tactical stuff. What are you working on? Like, what are the holes in the boat you're trying to fill right now?
The team is definitely, so I have a small team. I have one other agent who he handles basically all of our rentals. And we do a pretty decent amount of rentals in the city. And then I just finally, about 10 years too late, I finally hired an assistant a month ago. So that's been a huge help. We're like slowly trying to kind of put the pieces together. And I'm trying to figure out how much of the stuff I can offload to her and let her kind of run with. So every week she's kind of trying something new on her plate, which has been because, like the other day she went to an inspection where I usually would have been there. In that time slot, while she was there, I was signing up a new exclusive buyer that has a $1.3 million budget. So I wouldn't have been able to sign up that new buyer had I been at that inspection. So that's been huge. And now my goal is to bring on another team member. It's tough. Like being a good agent is a challenge. I've had a bunch come and go over the last 6 years on my team. But now I think I actually have a pretty decent funnel of business to hand off, where before I didn't. I'm trying to find another good agent to kind of take the lower price point clients and some of the rentals that we also get too many rental leads that we just can't take. So I'm trying to expand the business that way. And right now, like the other thing is the bulk of my business is still repeat and referral clients. Like the Instagram is huge, but my business has always been 70 to 75% repeat and referral clients. So I need to make sure that I'm not losing sight of all of those people. If I can just add 2 new clients a month at an average price point of about $1 million, $750 to 1.5, somewhere in there a month from Instagram, which cost me $0, then I'll put zero money into advertising and I'll just keep on doing that over and over.
Shout out to all our, Nebraska agents whose average price point is $250 right now. They're listening to this like
yeah.
I could find you a parking spot for $250 if you like.
Yeah.
Love that.
Maybe you could find a parking spot for $250
for like half the year. For only half the year. You don't.
No, I could find you a parking spot for $250. It'll be covered. Don't worry. It's a garage.
Nice.
But that's what I'm working on. That's my hurdle this year, is to try to expand the team.
Yeah.
And start to give out all those leads.
And a thing too that I love about what you were just saying. I know a lot of our agents, they'll be like, man, I'm just, I brought on an agent and it didn't work out, or I hired somebody, it didn't work out, or I'm not good at hiring, or I'm not it doesn't really work for me. What's funny is one of our team leads who's kind of been going through that process for the last 5 years. His great assistant just gave her 2-week notice. And I was like, oh man, that sucks, because she was doing a lot. And it's just funny because how not worried they are about it, because they've done so much hiring over the last 4 or 5 years. Like they've messed it up so much that they are totally comfortable with finding somebody, because everything's dialed in. And I think that's the big thing too. It's like you bring on an agent the first time, it may not work out. They may be crappy. And then you bring on another one and that may not work out. But every time you do that, you're learning more about what you need to do to bring on a good agent. And so I'm excited to see how this next iteration of you scaling out the team goes, because I think that'll be more successful probably than it was previously. And
definitely. I mean, because I started the team back in 2018. And so I have hired some really terrible agents since 2018 that are not in the business anymore. So I've learned a lot of lessons from that.
Yeah. And so I think that's great. So look, you gave us a bunch of great stuff. Honestly, I love this call. You you dove into what you're doing, but how you do it and everything else. But if you had one thing you wanted to leave agents with that are listening to the pod, what would it be?
Consistency. Literally just like hone in on what you think is working or what is working and just be consistently doing it over and over. Even if you can only do it once a week, do it every week, once a week for as long as you possibly can. And that will get you results. If you stick with it, you will find success with it.
Sam, thank you so much for joining today. I know I had a lot of takeaways, and I'm sure everyone that's listening did as well. So very much appreciated, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks guys.
I'll see you.
This is a lot of fun. Yeah, come to Boston, man.
I'll be up in Boston this summer. We'll do
all right, let's
something
hang.
for sure. All right,
let's hang.
All right, guys.
Awesome.
We'll see you on the next one.